So, the other day, I talked about how Ken Penders actually did it. He actually got the Lara-Su Chronicles, the beginnings book, as he calls it, made into a reality. He actually has the physical copies that he's put up for pre-orders and is going to try to sell as San Diego Comic-Con exclusives. And I do apologize for that notification there. If you heard any vibration, that was a notification coming in by my email. But like I said, I mentioned how basically this could bite him in the rear in the long run, how it could land him in court. And the reason I say that is because when you look at the video, and I provided a link to it in the original on-screen and audiofied, if you will, video I put up talking about this. When you look at the pages as he's skimming through the book, kind of showing you what's in there, there is a lot of stuff in there that basically legally he can get into trouble for. Now, as I mentioned in the original video, he could put out the argument basically that, well, these are different alternate versions of said characters. So Sega doesn't have a leg to stand on, or Archie, by extension IDW, don't have a leg to stand on, and so on. But here's the problem, though. Here's the problem. You could say it's an alternate version of Sonic as King Sonic. You could say it's an alternate version of Knuckles as the Guardian. You could say it's an alternate version of Sally, if you will, of Rotor, and so on. But still, Sega will take what you're trying to do, and that's make money off of it, and say, hey, you can't do that because we did not give you consent to do that, even if you try to change up, our character, our IP, to make it different than what it originally is. So Ken could find himself, if not probably will find himself, in a lot of hot water, and hopefully his own family is trying to probably talk some sense into him, into not doing this. Because if he does this, again, as I mentioned in the original video, and then later on Autofied video, like I said, he could end up losing a lot of what he fought for and probably lied about, to get in his favor, or to gain control of, years ago. He could lose a lot of that. He could lose the rights to characters like Julie Sue. He could, lose rights to characters like Hershey the Cat, Joffrey St. John. Any character that he created, to be part of the Archie Sonic lore, and by extension the Archie Knuckles lore, he could end up losing. Because the truth, as it's been discussed throughout the years, is going to come out. Because if you Google and you talk to the right people, apparently more information has been discovered that shows that Ken may have not been telling the courts the whole truth about, having, full ownership over the characters and stories he created for the Archie Sonic run. So he could basically be on the verge of losing a lot of that, if he's not careful with what he's doing here. Because basically they could say, hey, you lied about having ownership of all of this, having the right to, the rights to royalties for all of this, based on, the further research and investigating that's been done, so by basing, our findings on that, it also just shows you don't have the right to publish this book. That's what the courts could tell him. That's what the courts could tell him if he ends up in that kind of a scenario. Now, as I mentioned before, he's doing this by one of two ways. He's doing this by mail, by sending out the pre-orders, or the physical copies, the physical copies of the pre-orders to those that did pre-order them, that did purchase them. And he's also basically going to be selling them at San Diego Comic-Con. Now, here is where, the second, avenue of getting this story out there to really get people interested in his Lara, that's Lara-Su, Lara-Su Chronicles series. The other option, the other optional place he's going to be selling these and promoting these at, from what I've heard, is San Diego Comic-Con. And San Diego Comic-Con is a big, big deal. It's not just about, celebrating the history of comic books, but it's also about the entire entertainment world, to an extent, converging into one place for 1 week almost, talking, or at least one full, 4 or 5 day weekend, and talking about what's upcoming in theaters, on television, and yes, what's upcoming in the comic book industry. And you cannot tell me that Sega, with the fact that that's going to be a place where they promote Sonic 3, is not going to be there, to help promote it. And by them being there, you can't tell me they won't catch wind of what Ken's trying to do. And I have a feeling what could happen, and I could be wrong, I could be absolutely wrong about this. What could happen is Ken Penders could get approached by a representative, a legal representative of Sega, and they could tell him, stop selling this book because you don't have the rights to the IPs of the characters or some of the characters involved in that. You don't have the rights. And again, Ken could explain, maybe if that happens, that, well, these are not truly, Sonic or Sally or Rhoda or Knuckles. These are alternate versions. These are fanficky versions. And what's going to happen is they could say, well, that might be true in your case, but guess what? But guess what? This character with the crown on his head, that's still Sonic. That's a Sonic design. That's not yours. This character, even though he has a cyborg eye and everything, he's still red like the Knuckles design. They could point out a lot of flaws in his argument to try to say, hey, I have all the legal right. Because he won't. He won't. So to me, even if he does, succeed in mailing out the pre-orders people order through his website and everything to have physically in hand, what's going to happen is San Diego Comic-Con is going to come around, and if he's still planning to go there to promote it, that's where it all could come crashing down. It could. It could all come crashing down there. And if not there, there's New York Comic-Con later on this year. So either San Diego or New York, if not both, are going to be catastrophic for him if he's not careful. I mean, look, we all get that Ken Penders is upset that his character ideas, from his point of view, got stolen. And that, for the Sonic Chronicles, the Dark Brotherhood. We understand that. We get that. He has a valid argument in the fact that he should have been given some kind of royalties or some kind of incentive apology, for what happened, and given credit. We agree with that. We do agree. But, but his thing Ken has to understand, just because you want royalties and everything doesn't mean, doesn't mean that Sega probably wouldn't have, if they, set their cards right, them and Archie set their cards right, they wouldn't have overthrown your legal argument, because they would have. But they didn't set their cards right, so basically Ken being Ken Penders, he being Ken Penders, I should say, ended up with a lot of characters that he probably doesn't truly have ownership over. But he does. But he does now, I should say. He does now. But again, we can understand that one of the reasons he, he did hold this isn't because of that whole debacle of the Sonic Chronicles Dark Brotherhood deal happening. But it's also the fact that, in my opinion, a lot of his stories were being continued, or a lot of his characters were being utilized without his consent. And here's the thing. He could sue for ownership of those characters, saying, hey, you didn't get permission and everything. And like I said, had Archie, to an extent, played their cards right, along with Sega's help, they could have said, well, guess what? We do have the rights to use these characters and stories as much as we want because you wrote them for us, and by default, you signed them over, to us, contract or not. I get he's upset about that. I get he was upset about that, and he did, get his way, if you will, much to this, dismay of a lot of fans. But as I mentioned, over the past few years, more evidence has been coming out. More information has been making itself known that maybe Ken wasn't being fully truthful. And again, if he promotes this at San Diego Comic-Con this year, a place where Sega will have a presence, along with Paramount, to promote Sonic 3, that could be catastrophic for him. That could be very catastrophic, and he could end up not only being, legally told to shelve the rest of this project indefinitely, if not shelve the books, indefinitely, or hand the books over to Sega, because, hey, he's infringing on the property. But it could hurt, trying to find the right word to say here, it could hurt any reputation he still has. And it could cause a lot of people, not just in the comic book industry, but in the overall entertainment industry, to not want to trust him or work with him because they don't know what he's, going to be capable of. They don't know if he's going to be, telling them the truth or he's going to be manipulating them to get what he wants. So I look at it this way, like, he'll be able to probably be all right mailing the pre-orders out to those that ordered it online. But for those that are going to try to buy it, or, at San Diego Comic-Con, if he's going to still plan to do that, they may not be able to get a copy there because he may end up with a cease and desist before he could even get the first book sold. Or something like that. He could be hit with a cease and desist, or he can get greeted by Sega representatives as soon as he walks in, gets ready to set up, and they could be like, hey, can we have a word with you? He's got to basically get on his hands and knees and pray to the Lord above that, that he will find a way to at least get maybe a few copies sold before something happens. He better be ready to do that. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. I mean, again, I get, like I said earlier, I get that he's upset about what happened with the Brotherhood situation with Sonic Chronicles. His characters and stories being utilized and continued in the Archie book. I get that. I understand all that. And heck, I even admit that coincidentally, I found it kind of weird that this all went down a little after Ian Flynn decided to continue the Mobius Years Later story, but instead of making it the actual future, as Ken at one time or a few times has promoted it to be, basically Ian decided, no, it's not the actual future. It's a what-if future. And, oh, by the way, it also takes place in a alternate universe. And that didn't sit well with Penders. It didn't sit well with Penders. So, yeah, I found it kind of ironic that this all went down the moment that story got continued. It's almost as if Ian didn't continue that story, maybe none of this would have happened, but we can't really say. But all I can say right now is, Ken Penders, he might want to reconsider going to San Diego Comic-Con and even New York Comic-Con if that's where he's also going in the next several months after, SDCC, because both or either one of them could be, it could be bad for him. It could be bad for him in the long run, from a legal representation, because again, both events, San Diego most importantly, but both events are going to have a Paramount and Sega presence. They have very strong Paramount and Sega, very strong Paramount and Sega presence. And again, I do apologize for that notification you just heard, that vibration you just heard. But they're going to have very strong presence there. And you can't tell me that word won't get out to the representatives from Sega about what's going on. And even before he sells the first book, or after he sells the first couple of books, he gets labeled with a cease and desist, from a legal perspective. Or, or you have officers on behalf of Sega's legal team going up to him and saying, Mr. Penders, we need you to close up shop because you're infringing on copyrights that don't belong to you. That could happen. He's got to be careful. I get this guy firmly believe. I get, in my opinion, that Ken probably firmly believes that if he creates lore for a character, even if the character's owned by somebody else, that he has as much ownership to that character as the original owners. I get that maybe he has that belief, but just because he contributed tons of lore to Knuckles and somewhat tons of lore to Sonic doesn't mean he has ownership to them. And he needs to wake up and realize that. And I've got a feeling that after he mails out a lot of the pre-orders and he gets ready to get himself going to attend San Diego Comic-Con in the next 2 months, that event right there, along with New York Comic-Con, if not San Diego personally, that's going to be a major wake-up call for him. And he's going to realize, okay, maybe I should just, drop this project, or I should just rewrite it, for the sake of, keeping my nose clean and not dealing with any potential legal ramifications down the line. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what Ken does and everything. But if I'm him, if I am Ken Penders, I strongly reconsider the whole San Diego Comic-Con deal, and if not, the New York Comic-Con one as well, because between now and December of this year, any conventions that are big, huge, in between, they're going to have a strong Paramount and Sega presence to them. And if he's going to attend any of them to try to promote and sell this, that's not going to be a good look. That's not going to be a good sign for him, period, because he will be hit with a cease and desist. So, just my opinion. I could be wrong, but don't be surprised that when San Diego Comic-Con happens in the next 2 months, that you start reading news from, sites like Sonic Stadium, IGN, Comic Book Cast, Comic Book Club, social media like Twitter and Facebook and Tumblr. Don't be surprised if you start reading articles that are coming out and saying Ken Penders, hit with cease and desist at San Diego Comic-Con because he was selling the Lara-Su Chronicles, which contain characters that he does not have ownership of, no matter how he tries to argue otherwise. Don't be surprised if you read a headline like that. And I've got a feeling that when that happens, it'll be a huge wake-up call for him. And hopefully he'll just drop this entire project and move on. Or if he wants to continue it, he has to continue it without having to rely on where it all began. So, let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Comment down below, live chat during the premiere. Super chats are open in the live chat, as described in the description, if you want to help contribute there, as well as super thanks as well. And you'll be able to shop at various places, including my Teespring store and other affiliates as well, if you want to look into the merchandise that you'll be seeing as well. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are. What do you think is going to happen? should he move forward with attending San Diego Comic-Con and maybe by extension New York Comic-Con? And what do you think is going to happen with him? Do you think he will be hit with a cease and desist? Do you think he won't even be able to even sell one book when he's at San Diego, at all because of maybe meeting up with the legal team of Sega, if not being escorted out of the building by officers at the behest of Sega's legal team because he's selling something that, infringes on copyright because it has characters in there that no matter how much he'll want to argue about it, are Sega IPs. Let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are on it, guys. Love to hear from each and every one of you on it. And until next time, I am out.